The African Development Bank annual meetings on day number 3 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, unveiled the highly anticipated African Economic Outlook 2023 report. The in-depth 222-page report delved deep into the economies of the nations of Africa and looked at challenges and opportunities and provided solutions and gave a forecast for the continent. Before the report was officially unveiled, Professor Kevin Chika Urama, Chief Economist and Vice President of the African Development Bank Group, gave a presentation with highlights from the report. On challenges facing the continent, Professor Urama highlighted a portion of the report that said debt vulnerabilities for Africa have been worsened by exchange rate depreciation and high primary deficits.
The third one, the second issue we need to raise in the macroeconomic fundamentals is the issue around debt. And we have all been talking about it. Debt vulnerabilities continues to worsen because of rapid exchange rate depreciation, as I've already talked about, but also high primary deficits. Consumer price inflation.
On opportunities, the report said green growth is positively correlated with GDP growth and encouraged African nations to invest more in a green, climate-friendly future.
We find in the report that green growth positively correlates with GDP growth. It also correlates with climate resilience and climate readiness. So embarking on green growth, which is what we're all talking about, and climate resilient development can actually be a source of addressing the long-lasting development challenges on this continent.
With respect to forecasts, the report said global demand for electric vehicles is set to grow, and Africa is positioned to benefit based on its natural resources.
Here, you see that currently Africa focuses on mining and metals, but then precursor production of lithium-ion batteries and all things that is needed for electric vehicles. The higher you go on the value chain, the bigger the market size. So investing more to get Africa to that level is a great way to mobilize resources that we're talking about.
Following the presentation, there was a panel discussion with reactions to the report.
The opportunities, are there opportunities? Yes, according to the literature, there are trillions of dollars of opportunities. Third issue, is Africa well positioned? Yes. Africa is very well positioned with opportunities, and not only opportunities, with a competitive edge of the resources, of the human capital, and more important, which is just bluntly that top-bottom approach makes it easier to approach.
No, I think first of all, I'm super happy to see this enormous depth of analytics in this report. But actually what triggered my interest most was the combination of what is needed is innovation, scale, and the right risk mitigants. And as a banker, I thought these are exactly the sort of 3 words I like. And what I heard also now from, of course, the governor of the Egyptian Central Bank is what we need to do is get this mix of innovation, risk return, and scalability right to really attract the private sector at scale.
Despite multiplicity of shocks, we're still able to generate real GDP growth that is above the global average without having all the stimuluses and all these amazing safety nets that you see the rest of the world enjoying. So I think resilience has been highlighted very nicely. But what I also found very interesting is the scope to leverage natural capital. And for this report to be highlighting that in Sharm el-Sheikh, where COP27 took place, I think is very timely.
To be on this panel.
With an eye to the future, one of the panelists, Andrew Mitchell, UK Minister of State for Development in Africa, spoke about an upcoming UK-Africa summit, which will be attended by UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak.
Now, we want to make sure through this UK-Africa Investment Summit, which will be chaired by our Prime Minister next April, that we do everything we can to boost trade, investment and jobs throughout Africa, and that we boost trade with our own country, from our own country, driving up living standards. And that's why the Prime Minister has invited African leaders and businessmen to come to, and women to come to Britain next April.
The President of the African
And then it was time for the big unveil, which featured AfDB President Dr. Akinwumi Adesina.
Ladies and gentlemen, to unveil the 2023 African Economic Outlook Report from the African Development Bank Group. Yes, we've got one more copy being brought. There's one copy. Yes, there you go.
Analysts, economists, government officials, private sector players will be pouring through this in-depth report from the African Development Bank for insight and guidance. And us on the Arise News business desk, well, we love a good report. I mean, these graphs are absolutely gorgeous. Purchasing Managers Index, global commodity prices, global capital market indices, and real GDP per capita growth. I mean, if these graphs were human and female, I would take them out to a nice Egyptian restaurant and talk about the future of Africa. It brings to a close a very engaging day 3 at the African Development Bank annual meetings in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. Rhoda Sodiri, Arise News.